Welcome in. What's Right with Nick Wright, episode 295. You're going to be like, well, this looks like a different setup. Listen, the landlord at Trentage, just the rate's too high. If the landlord at Trentage happens to be my wife, I'm obviously not serious, but we are in the midst of a new studio. This is the current studio for the time being. Damonza right now in the midst of a similar change. However, he still has the landlords at Blue Duck were a little more forgiving on a little grace
Yes.
period while we develop the new studio. So Damonza's setup still looks normal. If you're watching us live on YouTube, we appreciate it. We also, a few other changes. We're going to try this show with no commercial breaks, no breaks in it, and we're going to try over the, next few weeks and months to try to roll in more listener comments throughout the show. So if you're live on YouTube, try to do that rather than just save it for the end of the show. But other than that, normal show, another week giving out winning picks. Just red hot these playoffs. We'll get to it fully in a moment, Damonza, but last weekend undefeated. One push, 3 wins. So 7-2-1 for the playoff season so far. One added bonus of the show being now from my home at the moment, at least, and not being remote, is I'm going to have actual coffee mugs. So I feel like maybe this is just like as boring of a coffee mug as it gets. I feel like maybe like diehard listeners or whatever, they should maybe send me coffee mugs to promote their business. I think that could be a cool thing we do. Just drink out of
Yep.
coffee for people that listen and whatever and do it that way. I didn't really think that through when I said it. Now there's a mailing address that has to be involved. That's probably going to involve a lot of work for people that aren't named Nick Wright, but that's fine. Let's get to the show. Championship weekend. Here's what missed the cut. Josh McDaniels headed back to New England. We're not going to be discussing that. The Spurs and Pacers play in Paris today. We're not going to be discussing that. And I guess the Philadelphia Mayor misspelled the Eagles in the EAGLES Eagles chant. That's a tough one. That's a tough one. I got to tell you, it's not great. It's not the worst thing that's ever happened. It's not great. Damonza, let's get right to the show, though, because Arrowhead Invitational is upon us.
Yes, so it is that time of year again, the Arrowhead Invitational. Josh Allen will be going into Arrowhead and facing Mahomes and the Chiefs. He's done everything that he's needed to do this year to get to this point. Would
Yep.
you say that Mahomes needs to outplay Josh Allen in this game, or does Josh Allen need to outplay Mahomes here?
Well, listen, I do not think either team can win this game with their quarterback playing worse than the other teams. I don't think so that might be like, well, isn't that the case in every game? No, like Eagles, Rams this weekend. Jalen Hurts did not need to outplay Matt Stafford, which is good because he didn't.
Right.
Jalen Hurts needed to avoid the critical mistake and rely on Saquon and his defense. I understand James Cook has had an underrated and awesome season. This game is going to come down to the quarterbacks. And that can sometimes be banal or boring commentary. In this specific instance, that's what it comes down to. So I want to talk about Mahomes here first, and then I want to talk about the Bills. But actually, before I even talk about Mahomes, I want one final note on the referee commentary of the week because it's really enraged me. And I didn't care right after the game, but now that dishonest folks, listen, it's one thing if you're stupid. It's another thing if you're if you're smart enough to know better and being intentionally dishonest. And I really like Warren Sharp. I think Warren Sharp is a smart guy, which makes what he's been peddling this week so embarrassing. So folks are all of the numbers say the Chiefs are middle of the pack in penalties received. We talked about this on Tuesday. So, and in the 2020 Super Bowl, the Chiefs got annihilated in the penalty margin against them, the one they lost to Tampa. Now, that had nothing to do with the loss, and the only reason I'm bringing that up is because there is a new sample folks are looking at. And obviously, in 2021, the Chiefs didn't win the Super Bowl. This run started in 2022. But folks have decided if you start with the sample of 2021 to now, you have a group of playoff games where the Chiefs won the penalty margin 10 out of 11 games. And that now is the smoking gun. But here's the problem. So Jeff Schwartz has done a good job fighting this battle, but we are putting all in one bucket, judgment calls, non-judgment calls, and we're throwing out called penalties that weren't accepted. So if the Chiefs have 5 penalties in a game and the other team has 8 penalties, and that happens repeatedly, but if the judgment call penalties, meaning holding, illegal contact, DPI, OPI, those things, are dead even, and the other ones are pre-snap penalties, which are did you do it, did you not, offsides, false start, delay a game, does that actually tell you anything about the referees favoring one team or another? Of course not. And so I'll read Jeff's tweet exactly. Without context of the penalty, these splits are misleading. Take the Chiefs-Dolphins wildcard game last season. Dolphins had 8 penalties, included 2 false starts, a delay of game, and an illegal formation. So 4 penalties were called based on the judgment of the officials. 4. That's in this sample of, the Chiefs have gotten all the calls. The Chiefs had 5 accepted penalties, 6 total. 1 was a DPI with it, they declined it. 1 false start, and 4 judgment penalties. So that this Chiefs-Dolphins game as just a one-off example that's being used as, man, another game, the Chiefs doubled up the other team in penalties. Judgment call penalties were 4-4. And I really don't want to litigate this because I think it's so unbelievably dumb. And there have been, during this run, there have been 2 calls that you can say end of game, critical situations really benefited the Chiefs. The late hit out of bounds in the Bengals game and the hold in the Eagles Super Bowl. Both of those players that those penalties were called against immediately after the game apologized for committing the penalty and acknowledged they committed the penalty, including James Bradbury said, yeah, I held him. I was hoping the referees would let it go. And so that just set that part aside as well. The reason this is so frustrating for me is because it is allowing some of the worst. If I'm loyal to anything, it's to takes. My family is, of course, first, but takes second. And it's allowing the worst media members off the hook. I shouldn't say the worst media members. The worst takes off the hook. Because I was fighting a one-man war this regular season saying football media has this Chiefs team wrong. How many shows did we do where I said folks are arguing this is the worst team of the Mahomes era? And I said how ridiculous I thought that was. How many shows did I do when I said folks are praying at the altar of the Lions' margin of victory as if that is going to be some type of evidence as to how they're going to do in the playoffs? Folks are saying, oh, the Chiefs can't keep getting away with this, Jesse in Breaking Bad style. Like the luck's going to run out. And we had folks say this is the type of team that loses their first playoff game. And then we had folks say going into that first playoff game, that Houston pass rush, man, watch out. And now, instead of having to acknowledge, because all of those same people last year, when there was legitimate concern, last year said, oh no, never seen this guy win on the road. This type of path, Buffalo will clip them. If not, Baltimore will clip them. They have now 2 years in a row been very loud and very wrong about the defining dynasty of our era. And this week, when they should have to own it, they've moved it to where the conversation is about the officials. In a game that the Chiefs were up by 11 with 30 seconds left and then self-safetied, so they ended up winning by 9. So that part is incredibly irritating to me. And here is the other part that is irritating to me. We are missing what is one of the most unbelievable singular athlete sports stories of all time. And because we have spent this week discussing the refs, we might not get to have the discussion because it is, and we'll discuss this in a bit, it is on the board the Chiefs lose this weekend. Buffalo's excellent. No player has ever gone 4-0. No quarterback has ever gone 4-0 against another quarterback in the playoffs. It's never happened. There have been 3 instances of 3-0. Aikman over Favre, Brady over Rivers, and one other one that I don't remember. And obviously, Mahomes over Allen is 3-0. So 4 instances, the one that I can't remember. No one's ever gone 4-0. If we look at Brady and Peyton as this rivalry in the playoffs Brady owned, Brady won the first 2, then never beat him in the playoffs again. Peyton then won the last one that they played, Colts-Patriots in 2006, and then won both of the matchups, Broncos-Patriots, when he was with Denver. So going for, it is going to be a war this weekend. And the reason I'm bringing that up is what Patrick Mahomes did by getting to his 7th consecutive conference championship game, and this Chiefs team did, is totally glossed over now. Mahomes now has 16 playoff wins, 16, in his 30s. Brady had 12. The greatest winner ever, Tom Brady, had 12 playoff wins. I said in his 30s, pardon me, before he turns 30. I said that wrong. He has 16 with a chance for 17 this weekend. 2 guys ever have made 7 conference championship games other than Mahomes. Montana, who made 7, and Brady, who made 14. For some context on that, Montana made his 7th at 37 years old as a Kansas City Chief. How old does the audience right now, if you had to guess, think Tom Brady was when he made his 7th conference championship game? He made 14 of them. The answer is 35 years old. Tom Brady, until he was 35 years old, had been to 6 conference championship games. Mahomes now has been to 7. He's 29. This Chiefs team now has at the very least tied, I would argue, set the record, so to speak, for the greatest season for a 2-time defending champion, for a team going for a 3-peat. Teams going for a 3-peat, here is what they've done. The teams, the closest competitors. The Steelers, after their first 2 championships with Bradshaw, made the conference championship game after a 10-win season. Now, to be fair, 14-game schedule, so 10-4, and lost to the Raiders. The Cowboys made the conference championship game and lost to the Niners. And the Niners made the conference championship game after going 14-2 and lost a classic to the Giants, the Roger Craig fumble game. And now the Chiefs, after starting 15-1, resting guys in week 18, going 15-2, are in the conference championship game. It is the greatest attempt at a 3-peat we've ever seen. And All year long, folks ignored it. I don't want to say ignored it, but tried to downplay it. And now in the playoff run, we're talking about the refs. It's just
Um,
incredibly irritating. Go ahead,
behind is
Damonza.
going to the penalty thing.
Yeah.
Behind the box office says, why can't people give Andy Reid and Spags credit for being arguably the best coaching duo of all time? Little penalties and always well prepared to face teams that have equal or more talent than the Chiefs.
So
It's like
that's the
penalties
other
also come
that
down to coaching and stuff.
that's the other piece of it that the idea that it's a shocker that a team with a veteran quarterback, the best head coach in the league, the best coordinator in the league, playoff, battle tested, would cut down the penalties in the postseason is just lunacy. And here's the other thing I will say. One of the pieces of why you want to play at home is it's not huge, but a documented home field advantage to the calls. This isn't for the Chiefs, this is for the league. Home teams get a slightly better whistle across sports than road teams. Well, when you have played of your how many playoff games they've played 9 playoff games, 2 on the road, 4 Super Bowls. So they have played, or it's 9 playoff games, 19, pardon me. 13 home playoff games. Yeah, that's I'm sure there is a bit of home field advantage in that, but that's why you want to be at home. And so I found the whole thing ridiculous. Now, if I may on Patrick quickly, and we'll talk more about the actual matchups in this game during the picks. Patrick's going to have to be great. The Chiefs have set the record all-time NFL history. Think about that. All 100-plus years of football. No team has ever gone more consecutive games without a turnover. That's not some fugazi record. That's not, here's the very basic. Consecutive games, no turnovers. The Chiefs have set it with 8. Patrick has not turned the ball over since the last time they played the Bills. Patrick's going to have to be excellent, and they are going to need more than Kelsey and Xavier Worthy in this game. Now, I think the Chiefs' defense matches up far better against Buffalo than it did the first matchup, and we'll talk about that in a bit. But to answer Damonza's initial question, yeah, Mahomes needs to outplay Josh Allen for the Chiefs to win. I think the Bills are an excellent team. All year long, I've said this is the second best team in football, Damonza, and I think we're going to see the potentially the not potentially. I do think we're going to see the 2 best teams in football playing Sunday evening for a
Yeah.
chance to go to the Super Bowl. And for the Chiefs, they would also become the only team ever, right? Hold on. The Patriots made the Super Bowl in 14, 16. They won it in 14, 16, and 18, and they lost it in 17. Yeah, the Chiefs would become the only team ever to make 5 Super Bowls in 6 years. And the one year they didn't, they would have lost in overtime of the conference championship game. All right, let's go to the Bills.
So on Josh Allen, Josh Allen has eliminated most of that roller coaster trait that you said that he has. But
Yep.
you said before, whenever teams play the Chiefs, they tend to get in their head and play outside of their game. Do you think that there's
Yep.
a chance that you might find Josh Allen trying to play hero ball because he gets himself into a situation?
So I do think that's going to happen. And here's why. It's not this is not an indictment on Josh. But Josh last year in this game, it was very odd because on the opening play of the opening drive of the game, he threw that lateral across the field. It was, by the way, it was an illegal lateral, but whatever. But aside from that, Josh was super conservative. 39 passes for 186 total yards. The Bills did not have a single play of 20 yards and they didn't have a single pass play of more than 15 yards. So Josh tried to play the conservative, safe game, and they lost. And I do not think they are going to. Now, he played a conservative, safe game against Baltimore, but Baltimore was, because of the mistakes in the first half, the Bills had control of that game basically start to finish. And you saw, he alluded to it in his press conference with he almost lateraled on the 3rd and goal right before the field goal to go up 8. As soon as it was like, oh, we have to make a play, as soon as that happened, that devil on his shoulder popped back up and like, come on, Josh, you know what you want to do. I think Josh has been superb this year. I have said many times, I thought he was the league MVP. I don't think the Bills' game plan of don't make mistakes, just, play solid football, run the ball, will work in this game. I think that the Chiefs are going to be too dynamic offensively, and I think that the Bills' pass rush is not going to create the same problems the Texans' pass rush did, and because of that, I think the Chiefs are going to be able to move the ball vertically, and Josh is going to have to stay blow for blow. So I'll go ahead and make what is a pretty ambitious prediction, because Josh hasn't thrown a pick. Oh, I guess he's thrown one pick in their last 8 games. I'm not sure about the fumbles. He threw a pick against the Patriots in that kind of bad Week 16 game. I think Josh turns the ball over this weekend. I don't think he turns it over a bunch, but I think he does turn the ball over. And I know the Chiefs' run defense was not very good against the Texans. No one has been able to run on the Chiefs this year. I think the Chiefs' run defense causes problems for James Cook, and I think Josh tries to make a play, and that unbelievable, I think the Bills have 8 turnovers this year, something insane. Josh has I really think it's 8 turnovers for the Bills this year. It's an absurd stat and a testament to Josh and what they've done. I think that snaps this weekend. And so I think one of the key factors when you look at, when I said it going into that Chargers-Texans game, one of the reasons I picked the Texans was Herbert has done a brilliant job of not turning the ball over. Only 3 picks all year. What if he throws a pick? How does it affect him? And he did, and then he threw a bunch. Lamar, I said the same thing. Only 4 picks all year. Had done a great job protecting the ball. What if he throws a pick? How does it affect him? And he threw a pick, and in the very next drive, turned the ball over. Again, Josh done a great job protecting the football. How does a turnover impact him? I think he has one this weekend. Let's go on to the next game, Damonza.
Just cast a spell.
No, it's just what I think is going to happen.
Yeah. Jaden, we'll go on to it. Jaden Daniels is a rookie. His head coach, Dan Quinn, is responsible for that terrible Super Bowl collapse back in 2016. Sirianni and Hurts obviously have the Super Bowl experience and that very top-heavy roster. Do you think it would be crazy to trust Washington more here than Philly?
I think it's crazy to trust Washington more. I do not at all think it's crazy to think Washington can win. Listen, the game they played them, 6 weeks ago or a month ago and beat them 36-33. And everyone will say, yeah, well, Jalen Hurts got hurt in that game. And that's totally true. But Philly scored 33 points. I know Jalen was out and maybe they would have had a totally different game plan, and Philly did, Kenny Pickett made some mistakes. I'm not saying everything would have gone the same, but it's not as if Washington won that game because once Jalen got hurt, Philly couldn't move the ball. What's unbelievable about that win, Damonza, is Washington turned the ball over in that game 5 times and scored 36 points and won. I couldn't believe it when I was rewatching it this week. That game, I guess I maybe
Sounds almost
maybe because
impossible.
it's
to be able
it's
to do
not
that.
impossible, but it's damn near unprecedented. That game, Washington had 5 turnovers, lost 3 fumbles, had 2 Jaden threw 2 picks, and they got stopped. I think it was the opening drive of the game on a 4th down. So they had 6 possessions end in a turnover or turnover on downs, and they scored 36 points and won the game. What now? That was also a game C.J. Gardner-Johnson got ejected in, and that really seemed to hurt the Eagles secondary. But I think Washington's going to be able to move the football on Philly. And the question is, can Washington at all slow down Saquon Barkley? Because up to this point, not only no one has, but they specifically haven't been able to. First matchup, Saquon. 26 carries, a buck 46, 2 touchdowns, 2 catches for 52 yards. So the first matchup, 198 yards, 2 touchdowns. Second matchup, 29 carries for a buck 50 with 2 touchdowns, no catches, but that was again Jalen got hurt. So he's averaging a buck 75 yards from scrimmage and 2 touchdowns in 2 matchups against Washington this year. That will get you beat. That no
Saquon
matter.
and Jalen Hurts are both a little banged up going into this game, I assume, though. From what
So I don't think Saquon's banged up. You're talking
Not
about
at
because
all.
of his hand?
Yeah, it
I
is
think
his hand. It's not. It's like a leg thing, but yeah, I mean, but they're leaning on Saquon. I don't trust.
They've got to lean on Saquon, and I did find it interesting that Philly yesterday did not hold a practice; they held a walkthrough. Why is that? I think the answer is because Nick Sirianni didn't want out there that Jalen Hurts couldn't practice.
Yep.
Because I think, listen, Jalen is for as much criticism as Jalen fairly receives for the limitations as a passer, he is a tough dude. And I mean, it looked like he could have torn every ligament in his knee on that one of those plays.
Yeah.
He came back in a couple minutes later. Now he got safetied because Sirianni made him drop back, and he obviously had some issues there. But so I fully expect him to play. I don't, that part to me is not a concern at all. But let me rephrase it. It's a concern, will he be effective? It's not a concern, will he not play? But they are really going to have to figure out, can they do something that no one's been able to do as of late, which is slow down Jaden Daniels. And is Jaden Daniels, if we just go back, starting with the Philly game, 260 yards, this is just passing. 260 yards passing, 5 touchdowns. 227 yards passing, 3 touchdowns. 268 yards passing, 2 touchdowns. 299 yards passing, 2 touchdowns. You then say, in that same stretch of games, what's his rushing been? 9 for 81, 16 for 127, 13 for 36 in the first playoff game, 16 for 51 in the second playoff game. The kid's been unbelievable. Flatly unbelievable. And so I do think it's crazy to trust a young team with a banged up offensive line and a below average defense more than the Eagles as a whole. I do not think it's crazy to believe Washington can go in there and win that game. You got a follow up here, Damonza.
I think they could win it, but if Washington and Jaden wins, will you officially have a new category of take? We'd call it Category 4, where it's you're wrong, but you got enough of the take correct to consider yourself correct on the take.
So, Category 1 is instantly correct.
Yeah.
Category 2 is eventually correct. Category 3 is dead wrong, like embarrassingly wrong. So, what you're saying is going into the season, I had this take. The Chiefs going for a three-peat will face in the Super Bowl a rookie quarterback who won a Heisman Trophy, who is a dual threat, who has a connection to Cliff Kingsbury, who went in the top 2 of the draft, and will be named Caleb Williams. And that if I got the first 6 pieces of that take correct and just the 7th wrong, do I get to claim credit? I'm here to tell you maybe. I mean, if again, if I go out on a limb and say this year, the first time ever a rookie is going to make the Super Bowl, and it's going standing between the Chiefs and a three-peat, will be a rookie quarterback. And everyone's like, oh my God, a rookie's never made the Super Bowl. And then that happens. Am I more wrong because I picked the wrong rookie than folks that were like, oh, it's going to be the Lions? I don't know. You know what I mean? This is a question people are asking.
Pretty close.
I must say. Pretty
close.
freaking
close. Yeah.
Pretty close. Or like a combination of totally right and totally wrong. That's to me what the category 4 is. Like, let me think of another example of this. Totally right and totally wrong. I would say kind of, well, no, that one doesn't work. I don't know. I can't think of it on the fly. Let's go on to the new coaches, and then we'll do our picks and stuff.
Yeah, so we didn't have time on Tuesday, but obviously Ben Johnson is going over there with Caleb Williams and the Bears.
Yep.
What grade would you give that hire?
I'd give that an A. They got the guy they wanted to get. Again, you don't know. Are you getting Matt LaFleur, Kevin O'Connell, or are you getting the long list of offensive geniuses who's never been a head coach who failed? Are you getting, I guess Brian Daboll, it's not fair to say he failed yet, but it's not going well. There have been a lot of these guys who we thought were offensive genius. Mike McDaniel, by the way. Is that working? I don't know. He got an extension. It worked early, and that's the better end. The real bad end is like Freddie Kitchens and Nat Hackett, and now you can say those aren't really fair examples. Shane Steichen, I don't know if that's working. So you can't say this is going to work great. You can say this is the guy they needed to hire. And weakening Detroit is another really good piece of this, Damonza. So, and that's the other thing, and we can get to Aaron Glenn now. Man, there are some legitimate concerns about Detroit. But go ahead. You can do the follow-ups.
Yeah, so the Jets landed Aaron Glenn. Do you think that that's a step in the right direction, or is it more of the same?
No, I like it for the Jets.
Okay.
I like it for the Jets, and I like the fact that they got him. It would have been, he has a real connection to that organization. It would have been an indictment if he decided he didn't want to go there. Everyone that's ever known Aaron Glenn's been impressed by him, it seems like. Sean Payton loves him. Bill Parcells loves him. Coach Mangini loves him. I remember people back in Houston talking about him. Why? And that's what I'm trying to remember. Because when I remember okay, that's why. It's because he played for the Texans. I was like, he never coached for the Texans. But when I lived in Houston, John Lopez, my old radio partner there, loved Aaron Glenn and would always speak highly of Aaron Glenn when he was getting his start in coaching, I think, with Cleveland. So everyone loves Aaron Glenn. So that part of it I really do like. I do think for the Lions, Damonza, this is a rough spot they're in now. Right. You have back-to-back heartbreaking playoff losses, and you lose your top 2 coordinators.
Who do you think was the bigger loss between those two?
I think Ben Johnson, because I'm not we got to see how this impacts golf, and we got to see how not having I don't know, they'll have to learn a new system entirely, but the loss of Ben Johnson combined with you lost that game in part because of your 4 turnovers, what that's going to impact him on for next season.
Yeah.
All right, let's fire off these other couple follow-ups before we get to our picks.
Yeah. So Jacksonville fired their GM yesterday after missing out on the top head coaches. What does this mean for your guy Trevor Lawrence?
I think it's the best thing that, listen, I don't love that they missed out on the coaches, and maybe they'll still take a run at Liam Cohen. But Trevor was going to be that team was going to be drawing dead as long as Trent Baalke was there. Trent Baalke hasn't been a part of a double-digit win season since 2013. He somehow won a power struggle in San Francisco with damn Jim Harbaugh, and they ran Jim Harbaugh out. So they needed to move on from Baalke. It's really positive that they finally did. All right, last one.
Best remaining head coach opening: Cowboys, Raiders, Saints, or Jags.
Now that Baalke's gone, I think the Jags, because I still believe in Trevor, and that division is so wide open. The Saints salary cap situation's a disaster. The Raiders, the division is impossible. And the Cowboys,
Jerry
you have to
Jones
deal
and
with
Micah
Jerry.
Parsons podcast.
Right, you got to deal with a lot of stuff. Now you have Dak. Right now, I get it. Dak's better than Trevor, but I think Trevor has the higher upside and potential, and you can actually install your own culture in Jacksonville. So I would rank them Jags, Cowboys, Saints, Raiders. The thing with the Saints is you need to have a legitimate 6-year runway. You need to make it clear next year and the year after we're cleaning up the cap. And then in 2027, excuse me, in 2027, we're going to try to start competing. All right, by the way, before we get to our picks, this episode of What's Right, I mispronounced my own name of the show. Let's try that again. This episode of What's Right is brought to you by Daya Pizza, featuring dairy-free cheese made with their new Daya Oat Cream Blend. Daya-free cheese has come a long way, and Daya is leading the charge. Their pizzas offer the melt and stretch of traditional cheese without any dairy. Each Daya pizza starts with perfectly crisp crust, layered with savory, satisfying toppings, and finished with cheese that melts and stretches beautifully. The Daya Oat Cream Blend delivers a creamy, cheesy texture that's indistinguishable from dairy-based options. Every pizza is crafted to be dairy-free, making it a great choice for anyone seeking more inclusive meal options without compromising on taste. That's the most important part. Daya takes the concept of dairy-free to a new level. You guys know this is my favorite part. Eliminating FOMO, fear of missing dairy. These pizzas deliver delicious taste and texture, making them perfect for any occasion, from casual dinners to game day spreads. Enjoy a FOMO-free pizza night with Daya. Visit DayaFoods.com for more info, or find Daya Pizza at retailers like Whole Foods, Kroger, and Walmart. Follow Daya on Instagram and TikTok for more updates. All right, Damonza, let's get back to it. I'll let you go ahead and recap my picks for this weekend, because again, I mean, when I say hard to do better, literally true. Couldn't have done better. Go ahead.
There's a lot of green here. First off, you had KC -8.5 versus Houston. I got a little close there.
Well, let me say that one did get close, not because of the safety, but because, listen, they were up 11 and Houston's kicking a field goal, and the Chiefs had to block it. But they've done that before in bigger spots. This also does speak to the importance of holding off if you get the worst line imaginable. This thing was 7.5 and then 8.5 all week. And then an hour before kick moved to 9.5. If you could have gotten it at 7.5 or 8.5 all week, you can't bet it at 9.5 unless there's major injury news or something to do that. And the people that did bet it at 9.5 got killed. Now, here's what I will say real quick on this, Damonza. There's another example of people not understanding how gambling works. People are like, oh, you tell me the fix isn't in when it's a 9.5 point spread and they achieve self-safety. The Chiefs winning by 9 was the worst possible result for Vegas because they lost both directions. The early Chiefs betters, which they had a ton of, which is why the line kept moving, all won. You got the Chiefs at 7.5, 8, 8.5. Then it gets all the way up to 9.5. And then people hammer the Texans and it finishes back at 9 or 8.5. So all the early bettors won who took the Chiefs that moved the line up to 9.5. Then all the late bettors won who took the Texans when it was 9.5. That was the worst possible result for Vegas, just to be clear. All right, we can go back to the picks.
You got Washington plus 9.5 at Detroit. I don't think you were ever not covering at any point.
I was never not covering, but to be fair, that was the game that I said I had the hardest time picking, and that was the game that covered the easiest by far. Go ahead.
So you got to push plus 6 at Philly. And then you've got Buffalo.
I thought I was going to win that outright because I thought Stafford was going to pull off the insane comeback. Now, we do have to shout out Jake Elliott here. That one, yes, Stafford could have come back, but also Jake Elliott missing a couple extra points was key. And the last one was Buffalo plus 1.5 against Baltimore. For the record, all week long on TV, I said that line should be Buffalo minus 2.5. They're home. I thought they were slightly better. They had the more trustworthy quarterback. And I said that should be Buffalo or Buffalo minus 2.5. If it were, I probably still would have taken Buffalo. I would have lost. But Buffalo plus 1.5 a winner. And am I the greatest TD Genie guy ever? I mean, you saw I hit it again.
Kelsey plus it was Mahomes' only touchdown.
Yeah. Mahomes' only touchdown. I'll give you guys a touchdown Genie for this weekend. Because I'm undefeated on it this year. Kareem Hunt. Kareem Hunt would be, I don't even know what the odds are. Kareem Hunt's going to score a touchdown. Pacheco has not been the same since returning from the broken leg. SF Ben, by the way, parlayed all our picks plus 1,200. Nice little win for him. All right. And Kareem Hunt is plus 190. Oh, I love that. Yeah, Kareem Hunt, anytime touchdown. He'll get the goal line carries. So I'll lock that in. All right, Damonza, first game.
You've got Washington plus 6. It's plus 6.5 on FanDuel, but it's at minus 120.
So I think that right now the consensus line seems to be plus 6, and I'm no Danny Parkins where I'm just gonna line shop, and then try to say, oh, I got this great line. So I'll do plus 6. I think Washington can win. I'm gonna hold off on making my official pick on that till tomorrow. I do really want to see an actual Eagles injury report, which we haven't gotten to see yet. But I think Washington can win this game, Damonza. And I think that even if they're trailing, Jaden, the backdoor cover is going to be alive the whole time. Now listen, it is in play. I'm not going to act like there is a game script that is Washington goes for an early 4th down like they did against Detroit, fails. Philly, runs Saquon, goes and scores, gets a stop. All of a sudden, Philly is up.
It's more likely for Philly to blow them out than for the Commanders to win.
Well, I don't know that I agree it's more likely, but a Philly blowout certainly wouldn't be shocking. There is some trepidation here, but I kind of trust Dan Quinn in game more than Nick Sirianni. And
you really don't like that guy, man.
Well, no, I mean Sirianni, we didn't talk about it in the divisional game. I mean, he had one of the worst game management games I've ever seen. They butchered the end of the first half, got no points. Right after Jalen's knee bent the wrong way, he called a drop back into his own end zone and got safetied. And on 2nd and 7, truly called one of the 2nd and 7, 3 minutes left to try to make the conference championship game with a first down. Honest to God, one of the worst play calls I've ever seen in the history of football. I'm going to do a play action rollout with my injured quarterback. And now all of a sudden it's 3rd and 19 and Stafford's going to get the ball back. Dan, listen, people like us, Sirianni's been to a Super Bowl. So has Dan Quinn. Dan Quinn's also been to a Super Bowl when he was with Atlanta.
He was supposed to win that one too.
That now there have been 5 rookie quarterbacks played in this round. They're 0-5. I understand that. It's Dieter Brock Purdy, Mark Sanchez, Joe Flacco, and Sean King. And all the trends and everything, like Philadelphia here. I just think Washington can get them can play a shootout with these guys.
And
I think Washington play a shootout with anybody.
Time as well.
Yes.
Like Philly
that's
needs
the
to
other
win this
thing.
game.
They're on a total free roll. And let me ask you this, Damonza, before we move on. Obviously, I want the Chiefs to win the Super Bowl. Forget what the point spread would be. Who do you think the Chiefs should want to be playing, Washington or Philly?
I think that they should want to be playing Washington. But
Of
that kind of leads me into the question. I was going to ask you a question, but would you say that they would would you say they would rather the Eagles?
No.
Oh, okay. That's what I was,
Washington.
Yeah,
no,
but
just
what
because
if
go ahead.
So what if they did get Washington? Me and the producers are actually talking about it. What if they get Washington and they beat Washington, but the Chiefs three-peat and everybody just downplays it because they ended up playing a rookie quarterback in the Super Bowl?
No. Nobody will be able to down. I thought you were going to go the other way. Nobody can downplay a three-peat. I mean, people will try to be idiots.
Well, I know. If Jaden Daniels wins this game, it's terrible scenario for you. I get that part, but it's not.
It's not a terrible scenario for me at all. But if Jaden Daniels wins this game and then also wins the Super Bowl,
he's the new Mahomes. It's Daniels Mountain at that point.
It's crazy. Like, yeah. I mean, it would be so almost unfathomable. But if people went into next year and they were like, obviously Jaden Daniels is the best quarterback in the NFL, it would be, I wouldn't agree, but it would be really hard to argue against. Like, they'd just be like, I don't know, man. The guy's played 1 year and won the Super Bowl as a rookie, and the defense wasn't that good. The running game's not that good, and then he beat Mahomes in the Super Bowl. Like, that would be, he would have a hell of, like, if you had to write a scenario where Mahomes beats Josh Allen, Lamar falls short again, Mahomes gets to the Super Bowl, and somehow is not universally considered the best player in the league, the scenario would be, well, a guy in his first playoffs and first season ever has an unbelievable statistical year, carries a team no one believed in to the Super Bowl, and they win it. So, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think that is, but Philly, what would concern me about Philly is their ability to shrink the game by just running Saquon.
Yeah.
And you don't get as many bites at the apple. But I'll take Washington +6. My last pick's going to be pretty obvious, Damonza. I mean, this is a no-brainer.
You got KC -1.5.
Yeah, so listen. I think Trent McDuffie is going to be following around Khalil Shakir. And I think that will take him out of the game somewhat. I truly trust the Chiefs' run defense, even though it wasn't great this past weekend. We have seen Travis Kelce in the first matchup between these teams did nothing. And both teams were without like 4 key guys, so call that a wash because both teams are way healthier. However, I'm not sure if Taylor Rapp is playing for Buffalo. He didn't practice yesterday. And Christian Benford is still in concussion protocol. That's concerning. Teron Johnson popped out his shoulder during the game, came back, but that injury, he'll definitely play, but he absolutely is susceptible to re-injury. So that part's concerning. Now that Hollywood Brown is in the offense and Xavier Worthy understands the offense, teams can't simply double Kelsey. And because of that, he's going to be able to eat in the middle of the field once again. Now, the Chiefs stink against guarding tight ends, so Knox and Kincaid should probably do well. But I think the Chiefs don't make any mistakes as far as turning the ball over. I do not think the referees are a big piece of this game. And I'm getting Mahomes in the playoffs with less than a field goal. Mahomes 7-0 against the spread and straight up when he's an underdog or favored by less than a field goal in the playoffs. In home games, November or later, cold weather home games, Mahomes is 23-2. Um, with the two losses being an insane Chargers game his first year as a starter and the AFC Championship game against Brady when he never got the ball in overtime, but the Chiefs didn't whine about it afterwards. And so listen, I think not Damonza, one of the most annoying, unimportant stats I've had to hear all year is, 3 teams all year didn't score more than 30 points. The Raiders, the Patriots, and the Chiefs. What's up with why can't they put up a big number? They never scored 31 all year. My score prediction here is 31-24 Kansas City. I think they actually do hit that 31 total for the first time all season. I think the offense looks way better than it did last week because the pass rush isn't as ferocious. And it's ultimately the Chiefs, Mahomes in the playoffs against Josh Allen and the Bills. No disrespect to the Bills, who I think have had an unbelievable year, but they come up short once again. Go ahead.
Game of the year. Definitely. It's going to be a great game regardless, I assume. But Austin R says, Nick, for the Kansas City Buffalo matchup, how much does Kansas City being on an extra day and a half rest playing a part?
I think it's a legitimate edge. Listen, I said that last week. That Bills Ravens being the marquee game and therefore getting the Sunday night treatment, while the Chiefs being, the matinee on Saturday, I thought was really, really good for Kansas City. Now, Kansas City got out of that game fully healthy, and they're the healthiest they've been all year. And Buffalo didn't suffer a ton of injuries, but Taylor, you always worry about cluster injuries. And Taylor Rapp is in the secondary. Teron Johnson is in the secondary. Christian Benford is in the secondary. And so
I think
that
they
to
started
me,
going at them as soon as Rap came out as well in the Ravens game.
yes. And so that to me is a real concern. All right. So the recap's very simple. We're 7-2-1 in the playoffs. I got Washington +6. I got KC -7.5. Damonza's picks in the playoffs have not been as good. We don't really have to do it. Who cares? You're not an against the spread guy. You're a teaser guy.
Wait, hold on. We can't say this. I'm all right. So yeah, it's gotten to the playoffs, and I am not against the spread guy. I might be a regular season spread type of, but yeah,
like your favorite
1,000%.
quarterback.
Because
You
it's
were
looking
elite
like
in the
somewhat of
regular
a
season,
rainbow over here.
and you fell apart in the playoffs. You know what I mean? Lamar Jackson of picking games. 1-2-1.
Yeah. Houston, I have Houston +8.5. That didn't hit. Washington +9.5. Money. Rams +6 with the push. And then Baltimore -1.5 because I was being a homer.
Tough one.
Even though
but
I've never been to Baltimore.
You are a teaser guy. And
The
this
teaser
Damonza, never a doubt on it.
Yeah, 100%.
Kansas City covering the whole time. Washington covering the whole time. Even the Rams at 14 covering the whole time. 3-teamer +105. You got to love it. Do you have a teaser for us this weekend?
So it is a I understand it's 2 teams. I'm teasing it. I can literally, 2-team 6.5 point at -143. We got Washington +13 at Philly, obviously, and then Buffalo +8 at Kansas City.
I mean, that's if you're going. I'll give that teaser a B. If you're going to tease either of these games, that's the direction you have to tease him.
Right.
So like
Exactly.
that, you
That's
know what
why it just feels weird because there's not a huge sample.
Yep. I mean,
But
and you don't want to teasing a 6-point Kansas City teaser makes no sense to where
yeah,
all of a sudden you're going through the zero.
could have
Like,
gone
so,
more points, but with there being just two teams, figured try to go as least amount of
yep,
points as I can to juice up the
I
odds
agree.
as much as possible.
All right, what's the offer
The
this
offer, the offer this week. We cooked this one up last night. We got Washington money line with a James Cook anytime touchdown score. Comes out to plus 708.
So here's the thing. If you like, I understand the argument there, which is James Cook's going to score a touchdown and you're just trying to get, way extra
The
juice.
extra juice from Washington. Yeah.
You know what? Here,
You got
switch it. I don't ever take the offer, but I'll take it. Washington money line and Kareem Hunt anytime touchdown.
Kareem Hunt.
And I'll take
Okay.
it.
All right.
And my guess is that'll be like 10-1 because Kareem, it maybe even more. See if the producers, while we read some of the listener questions, see if they can tell us in the doc what that would actually pay out.
Daniel says it's plus 857 as opposed to plus 708.
You'd like a little better odds, but that's fine. Washington money line and Kareem Hunt touchdown. I'm good with that. All right, Damonza, let's go to these listener questions. And reminder, by the way, like, rate, subscribe, review, do all that fun stuff. We are getting closer to 200,000 on YouTube. That would be dope. We're north of 170 now. The goal was 200,000 by the Super Bowl. I'll be honest, we're gonna fall short of that, but that's okay. Maybe we can get to 175,000 by the Super Bowl. That'd be great. All right, and subscribe on iTunes or Spotify, wherever it is. All right, let's go to these.
So I feel like it should be a rule if you were texting in the chat and we answer the question on the pod, you should 1,000% be subscribed.
Oh, I totally agree. It's great.
Fair.
Great take.
Matt says, decorated my door sign outside of my 6th grade classroom with, in our villain era, Go Chiefs, an adult actively baiting her 6th grade student haters.
Wow. I would just love to know what city that person's from. Because it doesn't sound like Kansas City, but I love that. All right. Next.
WX says, Nick, do you see parallels in how the Eagles and Chiefs are covered after wins? It's never about the fact that they are good, but about how they didn't play exactly like people wanted them to.
Well, here's sure. The difference is the Eagles do it to themselves and the Chiefs don't. Like nobody a few weeks ago, nobody was talking about the Eagles passing game. They were talking about Saquon trying to get 2,000 yards or break the record. AJ Brown kind of lit the fuse there. So a lot of it is AJ Brown or Nick Sirianni kind of baiting the media almost. So, but yes, I understand the point you're making. All right, last one.
Tasso asked, if Von Miller goes on to win his 3rd Super Bowl with his 3rd team, where will that put him in the all-time best defensive players ever discussion? Top 5.
Top 5, no. Top 5's too much, but it would be unbelievable. 3 rings with 3 different teams. And he obviously, he was Super Bowl MVP with the Broncos. He was awesome for the Rams on that run. And, for the Bills, that's been a disappointing signing, but he's the guy that scooped up Lamar's fumble. So if he were to make, a big play on Mahomes or some big play in the Super Bowl, but I'm going to leave people out. But just the immediate top 5 defensive players, you have Dion, you have Lawrence Taylor, you have Reggie White. Those 3 are, immediate right there. J.J. Watt, Aaron Donald are, in that group, and I'm leaving Bruce Smith,
Where's Ray Lewis
Deacon Jones, Ray Lewis, the great one, Damonza. No, he's in there. So, yeah, Von's not in that group, but he's a first ballot Hall of Famer. All right, this was fun. Hopefully on Tuesday when we're back, we got a cooler backdrop for you. Great job, Damonza. Great job, my friends at Blue Duck. Great job, everybody, putting the show together. I've been dreaming about these football games. I've been on edge all week. Sunday can't get here soon enough. Come on. 3-peat, 2 wins away. Let's go. What's right?